Good morning. Thank you very much for attending the May Chamber of Commerce, Holmdel Chamber of Commerce ChamberCast. My name is Terrence Wall, volunteer, one of the founding members of the Chamber. Very pleased to be here. I want to thank everyone for coming in person to the gorgeous, reimagined Bellworks Metroburb right here in Holmdel. It's open, fantastic businesses. Please come down and check it out. And don't forget to come to Barbella on Thursday nights and many different nights. Come down and enjoy a drink and socialize and network with your friends and business partners. We have probably one of the most important chamber meetings that I can think of having is we're having today. We have three fantastic guests. I'm going to introduce them, go over their bios briefly, and then we're going to go around the room so you can introduce yourself. I see the next generation is here from Holmdel Public Schools. Thank you so much for being here. It's great. We have some folks that are from nonprofits and private companies and folks that are interested in this very important topic. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and there couldn't be a better time to talk about something that is so critical in our society and frankly in our world right now. I want to thank Dr. Tara Chalakani, Deputy CEO of Preferred Behavioral Health Group, for being here today. Monmouth County Deputy Director Commissioner Sue Kiley, Liaison to Health and Human Services, also co-founding member of Monmouth ACTS. And we also have with us LeeAnn Wagner, Vice President, Counseling and Social Services, YMCA of Greater Monmouth County, another fantastic organization. Let's have a round of applause for our guests that are here with us today. Thank you very much. Thank you. And also, you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Holmdel Chamber. In addition to the wonderful guests that are here now, we're also streaming live. Feel free to post to Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Let folks know about the information that you're hearing today, because we are here to destigmatize mental health. We're to normalize the issue. We all have various parts of our body, our brain, our wellness, mindfulness, these kinds of things. All of us either probably need some help and aren't aware that we need help, or a friend or family member, and you're going to leave here today with that kind of empowering information for yourself or a loved one, a family member or a friend. So Jeannie, if we can, oh, and by the way, I wanted to shout out to Patch, who put an article out to also share the news that we have this meeting here today. We appreciate their work for local news to share the news as well, and it helps to get the word out on all the important information. So with that, can we introduce ourselves around the room, please? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Layla. I'm with Seaview Orthopedics and Medical Associates. We have offices in 3 counties. That's Monmouth, Middlesex, and Ocean counties. We have 30 doctors that can treat you from head to toe as it relates to orthopedics and pain management. If anyone has any questions, you can come see me after. I can give you my card or any information that you might need.
Thank you.
Hi, folks. My name is Paul, and I'm the owner of Team Marketing and LLC, and I'm here to support everyone and to see if I get some new business.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vincent. I'm a finance professional. I'm just here with my lovely wife. Interested in behavioral health.
Hello, everyone. I'm from Exit Realty East Coast. It's still a very strong seller's market with low inventory and many buyers wanting to come into this lovely county, Monmouth County.
Good morning. I don't have much of a voice. I apologize. My name is Russell Gartz from Collier Youth Services. We're about 3 miles that way for 97 years serving mental health, behavioral needs of children in our group homes, our schools, and our summer camps.
Good morning, Miriam Baresh. I'm from Primerica Financial Services. I'm a financial advisor and helping people on a personal and business level to reach their financial goals.
Thank you.
My name is Brian McGilvery from New Jersey Reentry Corporation. We're a nonprofit. Our Monmouth office is located in Neptune City. So many of our folks are returning from incarceration or county jails, struggling with addiction and mental health concerns. So I'm grateful to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you being here.
Hi, Al Aloisi, and Holmdel resident. You're an independent insurance broker, and which means I shop around for you to find the best rates for your health insurance, life insurance, annuities, etc. Also, a tennis coach. I was telling the Holmdel girls how good the Holmdel tennis team is. They knocked us out.
And if you heard on the way in, for Al, piano is his forte. So Al, thank you so much for always tickling the ivories on our way in the door in Bellworks.
Hello, I'm Kira Santana. I'm a senior at Holmdel High School. I'm the president and founder of the National Business Honor Society and the president of the Future Business Leaders of America. And this is my 4th chamber meeting, so I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Belinda. I'm a student at Brookdale, double majoring in nursing and creative writing. I'm the vice president of wellness for the Pi Theta Kappa Honor Society, and I'm interning at Tap Into this summer.
Thank you.
She's my new intern. I'm so excited.
Oh, that's great.
Hi, I'm Mia DeSaro. I'm for a business internship.
Excellent. You're in the right place.
Hi, I'm Gianna. I'm also a junior at Holmdel, and I'm looking for a possible internship for next year.
Okay, Businesses in Bellworks, 2 fantastic internships. Come on down.
Hi, my name is Nikki Tierney. I am in sustained remission from opioid use disorder. I am also a person who has been diagnosed with major depressive disorder and general anxiety disorder, and I am also a survivor of an incomplete suicide. After battling with my issues for a while, I returned to graduate school and am now a licensed assistance counselor and a counselor of alcohol and drug recovery. So I'm so honored to be here. Thank you.
We're honored to have you here. You're an inspiration to so many people in Monmouth County, the region, and beyond. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
And congratulations on all your successes. A round of applause for Nikki Tierney. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hi, good morning. I'm Andrea Plaza, and I am the founder and the chief storyteller of Andrea Plaza LLC. It's a boutique marketing and consulting business that really specializes in public relations and executive communications. We have the great pleasure of working with cause-driven nonprofit organizations and businesses and entrepreneurs and leaders who are making an impact in our communities and in their industries. And you can find me on LinkedIn. That's the best place.
Thank you. You do a great job.
Hi, I'm Nicole Policia. I am the aide to Commissioner Sue Kiley.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Vanessa Paparanicu. I'm the owner of Side Door Lounge in beautiful Holmdel Village, right down the road. We specialize in skincare, body work, massage, relaxation, and what I do personally is energy healing work. I was trained directly under Dr. Eric Pearl out in Chicago several years ago. I've been practicing ever since. Love what I do. I'm here to balance the heart and the mind. If you need help with any of that, I'm your go-to person.
And I can give testimony from people close to me in my life that Vanessa has really helped through Reiki, right? Through the Reiki program. So thank you. Yes.
Hi guys, I am Nicolette Dahlhammer. I am the owner of Evolution by Nikki, which is a lifestyle, mental health, and it started basically on New Year's Eve of 2021, so just a few months ago. Started out as a podcast, kind of going through my life story, which is basically 33 years of childhood, adolescent trauma. I discuss about a 4-year period of time where I had an issue with substances. I discuss my mother being an opioid addict and several other things. And I had received so much support and positive feedback that I turned it into a full-time business. I quit my teaching job after being a veteran teacher for 10 years in Bayonne. I got a new job. I started studying for my master's in substance abuse counseling. I am an LCADC intern, and hopefully, God willing, one day I will be a licensed counselor and really be able to affect change. But for now, I'm here doing this, doing the best I can to bring attention to this subject and behavioral health and mental health and substance abuse. And I am beyond honored to be here amongst all of you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And so what's the best way for someone to reach you? I know you have a podcast.
So I have business cards here. I have a QR code on the back. I also brought my clipboard, which has a QR code. So if you scan the QR code, it will bring you right to my link tree, which brings you to every social media page I have, Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, even Pinterest.
And for the viewers that are tuning in,
yes.
what's the best?
Oh, okay. So for that, I would just start with Instagram, and I would just do evolution_by_Nikki.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jasmine. I'm the owner of Beautiful Me All Natural Anti-Aging Skincare business. We personalize beauty care, I'm sorry. And we come to you in your home or office. If you feel we can be of any help, please come say hello, and we would love to tell you the benefits that our products provide. Thank you.
And tell us about your involvement with the Chinese school.
Okay, so I'm the also language director at the Jersey Shore Chinese School, and we are promoting our adult class. It's 18 and over. We have classes every Saturday from 9:30 to 12:30. If you need any more information, please come say hello. Thank you.
Thank you. And my name is Jeannie Wall. I'm the owner of Hometown News, LLC, and also the owner of Tap Into Holmdel, Colts Neck, Middletown, Hazlitt, Keyport. I cover local daily news in the community. If you are you looking for a great platform to advertise, promote your business, community relations, public relations, give me a call, 732-492-2500.
Thank you very much. Okay. So if you were listening a little bit, and I certainly was, we have powerful people, not only here next to me, but in the audience, of so much variety and talent. Mental health is a universal issue. Mental health crosses age, generations, cultures, religions, countries, worldwide. It's so important and so critical, especially now. We're going to be going over a few different questions, and we're going to have a conversation that I think you're going to find very empowering. So I'm going to expand on the introductions a little bit. So the information that you get today, and the information for folks that are watching the streaming or the information is shared to, you know where it's coming from, and the talent and the time and effort backgrounds of the folks that are here with you today. And the folks, we're going to open it up for a Q&A a little later. So think about what types of questions are productive both here in the room now, but also for folks that are listening that may want to connect. There may be a question that may be for a family member or a friend. Dr. Tara Chalakani is the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Preferred Behavioral Health Group. It's a trauma-informed organization. She's going to get into that. It's headquartered in Monmouth and Ocean counties. They serve over 30,000 people each year in over 70 programs in 11 counties that encompass traditional outpatient, intensive outpatient, prevention, school-based services, residential, school, right? Extremely important, the K through 12 environment right now. So important. Mobile crisis response, case management, and justice-involved services. Dr. Tara has extensive experience in healthcare and behavioral health and is passionate about creating awareness and destigmatizing mental health, which is what we're continuing to do today. It's ongoing everywhere right now. I would say it has been destigmatized because we're talking about it. She also has a private practice in Brielle where she works with children, adolescents, adults, and couples through a holistic and trauma-informed lens. Monmouth County Deputy Director Commissioner Sue Kiley is serving her second 3-year term on the Monmouth County Board of County Commissioners, formerly known as Freeholders. She's the board liaison to the Human Services Department, including, among other areas, the Division of Mental Health and Addiction Services, a key issue. Also the Division of Planning and Contracting for Human Services and the Division of Social Services. Sue leads the Monmouth ACTS program, we'll be talking about that a little bit, an innovative public-private partnership, the first of its kind in New Jersey to better the quality of life for Monmouth County residents that are in need of its services. Sue retired from a successful 30-year career in the healthcare industry before entering the political arena, first as a registered nurse and then in healthcare sales, and most likely after November as your newest Congresswoman. We'll see. So we appreciate you being here today. We're also so fortunate to have LeeAnn Wagner here as well. She's Vice President of Counseling and Social Services at the YMCA of Greater Monmouth County. LeeAnn has been bringing light to individuals and families struggling with mental health for over 20 years. She's Vice President of Counseling and Social Services for the YMCA of Greater Monmouth County, which is one of the largest YMCAs in New Jersey. This YMCA is absolutely fantastic. The team there is incredible. It's one of only few in the country that provide extensive behavioral health services, absolutely ahead of the curve. LeeAnn is duly licensed as a professional counselor and a clinical alcohol and drug counselor, as well as an approved clinical supervisor with over 22 years of experience. She has led the expansion of the WISE school-based therapeutic counseling program. Extremely important. It's now in 100 schools in a 3-county area, and we'll be talking about how the Y helps strengthen our community with a holistic approach to health and well-being. Round of applause, folks, for our guest. So we're going to jump in right into it. If I may, if I could start with Tara, if you can share, how has COVID impacted mental health? And also going back to being a trauma-informed organization, can you share what that means?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, we don't have a whole week to talk about this. We only have a few minutes. But to just boil it down to a simplest form, as human beings, our greatest need is beyond our food, water, shelter, is to be connected. And I feel that COVID really impacted our connection with the outside world. It isolated people that were already isolated. And for the clinical people in the room, we know that when we assess people for depression, we know that isolation is one of the biggest red flags. And this was imposed upon us. So COVID truly separated so many people from events, from loved ones. And then in addition to that, we lived in fear. We lived in uncertainty. And for people who were struggling before COVID just to survive, this impacted them so tremendously. And I mean, that's a broad stroke. We can certainly get into more details, but when we think about who we are as humans at the core, I think those are the two biggest impacts that it had on us. And then, you know, everything else, financial, our professional lives, our health. Did we lose people that were close to us? So there were many, many factors that impacted mental health. And the beautiful thing is, if there's anything good to come out of a global pandemic, we're talking about it. So I thank you, Terrence and Jeannie, for bringing this to everyone's forefront of their minds in our discussion this morning. And just to address the trauma-informed piece, trauma is a word that most people don't like to talk about because the immediate thoughts are things like abuse and neglect and death. But trauma can be circumstances. And I think we can all agree that our circumstances over the last 2 years have been traumatic. I mean, down to not being able to find toilet paper. Remember that 2 years ago? I mean, that's traumatic. Those are circumstances that impact us. So a trauma-informed approach, which we incorporate at Preferred Behavioral Health Group, is we know now without certainty everyone has been impacted by trauma. So our approach is to embrace everyone that walks through our doors or shows up on a screen or is on the other end of the phone. We know that you've been through something really difficult. And the way that we speak to you, the way that we engage you, the way our physical spaces welcome you in is all through that trauma-informed lens.
Thank you. You know, LeeAnn, Tara had mentioned connectivity. The YMCA has an array of programs from 8 to 80 of connectivity, whether for isolated seniors and other types of programming for school-age individuals. Can you speak to what the YMCA is doing as far as connection and the human connection?
Absolutely, Terrence. To your point, I think everybody knows the YMCA for our swims and gyms, right? Everybody thinks about summer camps and all of the branches that we have, but we also have a very large counseling and social services line, which we've been providing behavioral health services for nearly 50 years, since 1974. And while globally the YMCA does a great job of serving 36,000 individuals, children, adults, and families throughout 3 counties, in all of our programming, we like to highlight some mental health work. So we will incorporate social emotional learning into our camps and into our child care programs. You mentioned the seniors. We also do a bunch of programming for seniors so that way we can bring them out of isolation. To Tara's point, that isolation is really not helpful in behavioral health, and we know through the pandemic that the seniors were really isolated. And then through our through our behavioral health services, we have a whole variety of services, from in-home to outpatient services, in community services, everything from individual to group work for across the lifespan, 3 to to 80, mental health and substance use disorders. We also are able to partner with the community, and we are licensed in just about 100 schools throughout Monmouth and Ocean and Middlesex counties, so that's 18 school districts. And one of the nice things about that program is that it really destigmatizes mental health and also helps to eliminate some of the barriers for treatment, specifically for families who struggle with transportation, scheduling. Everybody knows that kids have 100 things to do, and behavioral health is not always the top priority. So being able to offer traditional outpatient mental health services on campuses really eliminates a lot of those barriers and also helps the kids be more comfortable with it because it's right in the comfort of their schools.
You know, another word that Tara had mentioned that folks are not as comfortable with was the word trauma. There's another word that folks are perhaps even less comfortable with, which is suicide. Suicide ideation has skyrocketed. The statistics are devastating. The reason I'm bringing that up, other than it's part of this massive mental health crisis, the YMCA has taken steps programming for, I believe, with the schools. Can you share that kind of programming that the YMCA is partnered with? Because I recall in Middletown, they were looking at different options for their programming, and I got to know the folks in Middletown, and the parents were just so adamant and proud and so vociferous in their support of the YMCA's program that they stayed in place with new contract and expanding their programs. And that was a real success, and it shows how people want to keep it local, keep it in the county. But can you talk about the devastating impacts and how the YMCA is getting ahead of or working towards ameliorating this threat to our youngsters and to our young adults?
Absolutely, Terrence. You know, I think one of the most alarming statistics is that over the last 10 years throughout Monmouth County, the suicide rates have continued to increase. And throughout the pandemic, suicide deaths also significantly increased in Monmouth County. And so we're really grateful for our partners in this work in the county, the Division of Behavioral Health, our work with Society for Prevention of Teen Suicide and Mental Health Association. We do a lot of work in sustaining grants to provide education within the community. But the YMCA of Greater Monmouth County also holds the grant contracts through Rutgers University for the Traumatic Loss Coalition in both Monmouth and Ocean County. And what that is, it is a statewide initiative for suicide prevention and post-vention responses for traumatic loss. And through that grant, we're able to provide multiple trainings to school partners, community-based organizations on suicide prevention. We also offer that specifically to the schools. There's a lot of training that goes into training school personnel in those venues. And then we also partnered with the Society for the Prevention of Teen Suicide on a grant to develop a Y-specific training curriculum for suicide prevention. So that way all YMCA staff are trained in the signs and symptoms, also to help kind of normalize the conversation a little bit and get them familiar and comfortable with what to look for and how to respond should one of our members or participants be experiencing some kind of suicidal ideation or suicidal crisis. So we can link them to resources, and we've been able to roll that out, and almost all of YMCA now is trained, and they will be trained by the end of June. And so we are definitely doing a lot of work in that area.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned the word resources. You know, in real estate, they say location, location, location. If there's anything that comes out today is resources, resources, resources. And that's a good pivot to the county and their intersection with mental health. And how the county partners with nonprofits and private companies and their own initiatives. Monmouth County leads the way on so many different things. Can you share what's happening from the county standpoint on their mental health platforms and how they're moving the ball forward for folks?
Sure. Before I do that, though, I just want to thank all of the audience for being here, and your stories are absolutely inspirational. So thank you for being here and telling your stories. It's bold, it's courageous, and I really admire you for it. That's what's going to make the difference going forward. Yeah. Monmouth Acts was created, monmouthacts.org was created because there were people throughout the county that had no idea what resources were available to them. And, you know, I'd speak at something and they'd say, this is not fair. We don't have enough. We can't get help for our children, our parents, or whatever. And it wasn't because we didn't have the resources. It was because they didn't know about them. So we created, I guess, a coalition with the business partners in the community that were delivering these services. and then got together on a regular basis. We promoted the organization, we promoted the groups that were in the organization, and we started to get the word out to let people know that there were resources. The other thing we did, which is important, if you have a homelessness issue or you have a mental health issue, you walk into one place and you're asking for help if you're bold enough to do that. But you may have 4 different issues, and you're sitting in front of one counselor that typically deals with one problem. What we wanted to do was eliminate that when we created Monmouth Acts. So everybody's informed, everybody knows what's out there, and we call it no wrong door. So no matter what door you walk into, whether you're looking for a place to live, whether you're looking for help with an addiction, everybody in the network knows about everybody else. So we can take you and walk you through the system to make sure that you get the help you need. And that's a tremendous thing to do. We still have to address stigma. We created a stigma-free movement in Monmouth County, which is going very well. You'll see those green signs everywhere. We've had colleges, we've had businesses, we've had towns that have declared themselves to be stigma-free. That's really important, but we still have a long way to go. Nikki's story might scare somebody. They might go, wow, wow. We have to be willing to open and accept the fact that this is a courageous woman that's willing to tell us her story so that we can help others to get better. So we're still working on that. One more thing I want to say, and that is I have 5 children, I have 13 grandchildren, just in case you didn't know. But one of my boys, when he was a little boy, I used to call him my little furrowed brow. He was always worried about something. And, we'd always put him off, like, oh, you're going to be fine. But pay no attention to it. Couldn't play basketball because he was sick to his stomach. Oh, stop. You're just nervous. You're going to be fine. Well, one day he wouldn't go to school. He was so nervous. And I said to him, just tell me what's bothering you. And he said, well, what if Columbine happens in my school? This is when Columbine had just happened, right? So you know how long ago that was. And I thought to myself, this child is far beyond worrying about what he's going to eat for breakfast. This is a serious issue that has to be addressed. And the reason I tell you the story is because I encourage parents that get that inkling, that get that feeling about their children, to bring that forward, to not be able to be able to ask the questions and be able to bring them to the resources that are available. He was suffering from a clinical depression and really, really needed help. And thank God we figured it out. My husband was on the other side of the fence like, oh, God, there's nothing wrong. Sue, he's fine. He's fine. And I think most parents want to believe that. But if your gut tells you there's an issue, get help.
And that's all part of solving the riddle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where do people that perhaps aren't even aware of their problem, or it's a family member, when they're listening to what you're sharing, and the folks that are here, with the basic question, where do I start? Where do I go? And less in terms of resources, but your mindset. Like for any of you, what might the individual be thinking about to kind of come to that, I need help, and that acting part? It's thinking, but then acting. What are some of the thoughts that one might, what can you say to help them move along to get to that piece where I'm going to take action to take control or to help resolve? What would you suggest? I'm open it to any of you.
Well, a conversation like this is certainly helpful, and I think that very often we don't get to where we need to be alone. And Commissioner brought up a beautiful point that, we have to trust our guts. We can't minimize. And something that I've been fond of saying recently is similar to when you see a suitcase in the airport. If you see something, say something. If someone seems off, if you have a conversation with someone and you think, they just don't seem like themselves, ask them, how are you doing? Are you okay? Can I help you? And it's a conversation starter, and even if they might not be 100% upfront with you, at least you planted a seed. At least they know that someone saw them, paid attention to them, heard them. And I think that often that can be a catalyst, like, I haven't been feeling great, but Terrence asked me if I was okay. maybe I need to do something about it, you know? So I think little things like that mean a lot. And my last point I want to make, similar to what Sue just shared also, is that, you know, children are suffering. They always have, and they are even more so now. And they have been so impacted by what we've been through. You know, they didn't learn the way they're supposed to learn. They were also disconnected. And a lot of times their feelings are dismissed. Oh, it's nothing. Oh, you're just a kid. Oh, it'll be fine. Get over it. We can't do that. We can't do that. They are people. They have just as many thoughts going through their brains and as many emotions as we do, and they need help. So if that's the one thing I can leave you with today, if you have any young children, you know, under your umbrella, whether, you know, personally or professionally, don't minimize what they're feeling, because if you think about it, we have to invest in them. Look at these guys. You know, they are our future. They're going to be sitting here at a meeting someday, so we need to take care of our little guys.
Yeah. LeeAnn, do you want to share?
Absolutely. I was just going to say I'd love to build on what Sue and Tara said. As a mom of 3 teenage boys, you know, in what we're experiencing now, this is near and dear. I think most parents are afraid to acknowledge what's going on with their kids, or even talk to their kids, or maybe don't even know how to talk to their kids. You know, what are the signs and symptoms? What are the warning signs we should be aware of? You know, if your child is isolating, if you've seen some significant changes in eating habits or sleeping habits, or their friend group, or if they no longer want to play sports when that's the thing that had always brought them joy and filled their cup. You know, those are things that we kind of need to tune into and take note of. You know, and my favorite thing is I love a captive audience. So if I want to get information from my kid, the last thing I'm going to ask my son when he comes home from school is, how was your day? Because everybody's going to get the same answer, right? Fine. Yep. What does that mean? That means nothing, right? But I love a captive audience, so I'll throw them in the car and be like, hey, come run a quick errand with me. Let's go, you know, pick up the groceries or something, because when they're in the car, they're captive, and you can engage them in conversation. Tell me a little bit more about what happened in school today, or what happened at hockey practice, or what's going on with the friend group. Dig a little bit deeper. You cannot be afraid to ask these questions and engage your child, because that's when you will find out what's really going on. And when they share with you what's going on, empathy and support. Okay, that sounds really difficult right now. What can I do to help you? Do you think it would be helpful to talk to somebody? You can access resources through the schools. You can access resources through your pediatrician. There's plenty of things out there. You just have to be, you know, brave enough and bold enough to have those conversations with your children.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Did I just lose it? I think I might have. No, I didn't forget. The other thing is, like, we always talk about awareness and making sure that you can talk to somebody that you trust and that you have confidence in. One of the things that Monmouth Acts is now doing in the second stage is going out into the community and engaging trusted advisors in the community, like your pastor. You know, in particular the religious community, because many people have a closeness with their pastor. They have a closeness with someone that runs the soup kitchen. You know, whatever it may be, they may be much more comfortable to come to them and say, hey, you know how I can, any ideas how I might be able to do this? Now they're part of the network too. So they know what's available, and they can direct people to us. I mean, it's pretty daunting to pick up the phone and call and say, hi, I don't know you, but I have major problems and I need help. But if you go to your priest or you go to somebody that you trust in your community, that might be a much easier conversation. Because our problem is not having the services. Our problem is getting people to come in and ask for them.
You know, some of the things are not necessarily new, and some are. For example, I remember on the shoebox when I was growing up, there was an old book that I don't know if my mom read it once or twice, but it basically said, it was a book called What Did You Do? Where Did You Go Out? What did you do? Nothing. And this goes back a long, long time. So it's very hard to get through those initial questions. Do you have a good day today? Yes or no? And then the advice is, well, ask an open-ended question. Well, how, you know, tell me something specific during the day today. Why are you asking? You know, so it's getting down to the third and fourth level. But that's a heck of a lot different than social media, or what I call anti-social media, where the predators are there on an everyday basis, or where when kids, you know, would, and they shouldn't, but if there's dabbling in different things generations ago, it's different than having one pill with fentanyl and you're at a funeral the next week, where it's not an overdose, where it's called an overdose, it's actually murder, right? So it's a different ball game. As far as empowering parents, and then with COVID, on top of those different dynamics, and homes, you know, trying to deal with the education environment, do you have any other guidance for parents that are just trying to keep things under control so the children have a normal childhood environment where it's not looking over your shoulder every day. Other ways to empower them. Any other tips or techniques for folks from your professional background? You talked about going with really your gut and trying to kind of really stay in contact, or the connectivity part. Would you share any other guidance, especially in a world where, or do you want to speak to social media or this ravaging fentanyl issue that we have right now, as far as parents being empowered? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I teased Terrence before we started that prior to COVID, I used to make not a habit, but I went around to groups like these talking about social media and the negative impact of screen time, and then the world was shut down and kids were going to school, 6 hours a day online, so it's kind of a wash now because it's unavoidable, the screen time, etc. But I will say this, that statistically, any adult, not even adolescents or children, any adult that has social media has felt depressed, anxious, or upset over 60%, okay? So by something that they've seen, they've read, maybe they were excluded by something, maybe it was something political, who knows? But whatever the reason, that's the statistic. So can you imagine what that feels like for an adolescent or a child who the statistic there is they check their social media at least 30 times a day? So what does that mean? If you add up the time and the data that we have, we know that social media, or like Terrence says, antisocial, which I love that, I might have to steal it, media, it negatively impacts our life. So the easiest answer I can give you regarding that is try to limit it. Some families have rules. How old do you have to be before you can have social media? Think about a child's brain is still developing. Can they really handle everything that they're seeing and taking in? Monitor social media. Don't be afraid. I know the high school girls don't want to hear that, but making sure you see what your kids are posting, and not to be creepy or looking at their stuff, but maybe have a discussion like, what was that post about, and what were you trying to get with that post? Because a discussion helps. So if we can all take a social media diet, I think that would really help us feel better overall.
Well, LL Bean, if you read, they just are off social media in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month. So they are off social media the entire month and are telling everyone, go outside, get some fresh air, reconnect, play, enjoy nature. And I'll tell you, I was just, in preparation for our meeting, I was looking at a number of different things. And so hats off to LL Bean for basically saying, we're checking out. We'll see you next month. And just turning it off. And I see in children, that dopamine drip. You read the science on it. That constant checking who liked what and who did what and who went where. I do personally feel it's as a layperson, I feel it's an incredibly negative influence. One thing that has changed over time to the positive from the mental health side is how it's treated in the medical field vis-a-vis the insurance coverage. We have mental parity laws on insurance now. It's basically recognizing the commonality of both physical and mental. But so I wanted to open up a question about mental health and physical health. What's different from them? Are they the same or are they different? And what are the obstacles you see? We're talking about different resources, but what are some of the obstacles, whether self-imposed or obstacles to getting care, perhaps a scarcity of counselors maybe, or other ways if somebody needs help to get help? Can you speak to the mental and physical aspect of mental health and perhaps how they connect with mindfulness and the mind-body connection? And also any obstacles you find in your fields, respective fields, or people to get that help, and how might they overcome that?
I think I'll take a stab at this one to start. I think that, when you start talking about the mind, body, and spirit, the Y does a really great holistic approach to tackling those by focusing on youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. But I think when you kind of take it one step further and you integrate, like, what does that actually mean? I recently read a stat that for every 100 individuals post-pandemic that need mental health support or mental health resources, there's 20 licensed clinicians that are accessible. So 20% of the population right now are able to access mental health services post-pandemic or where we are in the pandemic. And Sue and Tara and I were talking before the ChamberCast, and in the 22 years that I've been in the field, I have never seen the influx in mental health like we've seen it now. And so a lot of the work that we're doing with with our members and participants is focusing on mind and body. If your mind is there or your body's there, your mind will follow. So physical activity is a huge benefit to improving your mental health. Also getting people to not be isolated, having people come back out into the community. What we've seen through the pandemic is so much isolation that people of all ages are struggling to reintegrate. Look at the school population. Kids are really struggling in school this year. This was the first year in 2 years that they've been on campus for all year. And by like February, they were pretty much done, not interested in being there anymore because they were used to being home and not having that structure. Look how many adults still have not returned to in-person work. Think about it. The whole world is still digital for a lot of purposes, and people struggle to return to social interactions and go back out or to restaurants or go back to work. And so I think that there's a lot of communication and a lot of support that is needed to help people overcome those obstacles and those fears. And the reality is we've had the society living in fear for 2 years, and so what does that translate to? That's really a traumatic experience that we're asking people to be like, okay, it's time to move forward, and not necessarily integrating and taking into consideration the fact that all of the loss and all of the changes that people have had to overcome, and what does that do? So the thread that we all have is this commonality of we've all experienced the pandemic, but all of us have experienced it as individuals, and so we need to start working towards helping one another as individuals, because my experience is probably different than Tara's and probably different than Sue's.
You're right, and just to pivot off of that, Sue, your background includes nursing and being in the pharmaceutical business. I mean, you're incredibly suited to discuss the question of the connectivity that we're just talking about.
Not pharmaceutical. Surgical instrumentation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's okay. It's the medical industry anyway. There's a couple of things that nursing training teaches you very well, and that is how to connect with people, how to ask questions. I did a whole section on psychiatric nursing. And two of the things I remember the most, one is don't be afraid to ask questions, like with your children. I compare myself and my husband. He's a very black and white kind of guy, and I'm kind of a little in the middle. If I thought in fact I did think one of my children had suicidal ideation, he would say, don't even talk about it, don't even talk about it. Whereas I would go up and ask the question, because that's what you're supposed to do. If you don't ask it, you can't draw out what they're thinking, how they're feeling, do they have a plan? Are they that close? Have they really thought about this? Or have they just said, my life stinks? So being able to communicate, and the most important part about that is listening. Ask something that'll open them up and then just listen. The other thing I learned was same thing about the car. If you're in the car, you're facing this way and they're facing this way. So it's a lot easier for them to share things because they're not making eye contact with you. And then I talked about work-life balance, right? This may sound crazy to everybody, but I'm going to tell you anyway. 5 kids, 13 grandkids, right? There's a place for silliness in everybody's life. I babysit for grandkids, and they come over and they've got their iPhones and their iPads, and they lay on the couch, and this is what they're doing, and they're stressing. And it's time for me too. I could get in the office and work, but we do dance parties. So the music goes really loud and everybody gets up and dances. And they laugh and they have so much fun, and they think Mimi is crazy because Mimi doesn't know how to dance. But the point is that it's fun, and it's a short little snippet of time that gives them a different feeling than, oh my God, did you see what my girlfriend did the other day? And on the site, the social media. So I say it all the time, silliness is a good thing, and there's a place for it in all of our lives, and it helps.
For sure. Tara, you want to share anything? And then we'll open it up for questions in a moment.
Sure. The last thing that I would just like to tag on to everyone's comments is that you know, you had started the question with, did you say what's the difference between?
Or similarities,
Or
really.
similarities. And I think this is a great starting point when we try to destigmatize mental health, because health is health. If we separate physical and mental and just make health one thing, then it will be less stigmatizing. And when we talk about, you know, going to a counselor the way we do about going to a dentist or getting our elbow checked at an orthopedic, and the more we normalize it and make it part of mainstream conversation, the less people will be suffering in silence and privately, and they'll know that they can talk to people about it and not make it weird. I mean, we talk about all kinds of stuff. You know, I've got a mole on my shoulder, or have this weird cough. You know, we talk about body stuff, but we chop it off at the neck, and we don't want to go here. So the more we open up the conversation and make it part of our just everyday, and it's more comfortable and more normal, the better off we'll all be.
Thank you. LeeAnn, did you have something to add? Or?
I think I started.
Yeah. All right.
Can
Yes.
I add one more thing? You know, I've been talking more as a mom or as a nurse, but, you know, if I put my government hat on, first of all, I believe that we have to talk about with doctors or create some kind of encouragement for them to do physicals on an annual basis that include mind and body. I mean, there are a couple of very simple questions that our doctors can ask us. We usually trust them, and I think that's very important. The other thing that's critical is communication with your children is going to be stifled when some of our laws say that our police officers, who we trust, are not allowed to tell us when they find our kids doing something they're not supposed to do. So there are some fundamental laws and regulations that have to change in order to make it easier for us to communicate with our kids. And you know, the drug problem is huge, and we have to continue to work on that as well. And that's one of my missions, because I've seen it far too many times hurt people I love.
Thank you so much for that. Jeannie, let's open it up for questions.
Yeah, so my introduction earlier was a little inappropriate for this, and I'd like to apologize for my introduction. I'm here to get business, because I am here to get business, but I also have been affected by this for several years now. My question is that the pandemic didn't start this as it escalated, but what my question is, and my point is that it didn't just start because of the pandemic. This was ongoing for years, the mental health facilities and stuff like that. What is your impression of mental health facilities and what they can do to improve on things and make the conditions of the mental health facilities? Is that something that your organization takes care of and tries to make better? Is the facilities, because the facilities, and I think there's a lot of reform that needs to be done from that aspect of it, because people are afraid to go into facilities because of the fact that they're very scary to go into, and I've been affected by this, and this has put a damper on my day, to be honest with you, because of what I hear up here. It bothers me that this didn't just start on because of the pandemic. This has been going on we have had the mental health facilities for years, and they were influxed by the pandemic. And what's your take on that? That's all I have for the panel. Thank you so much.
I can start. First and foremost, you don't have to apologize. It's a Chamber of Commerce meeting, so we're here to support your business. But just to kind of rewind and touch all the points, prior to the pandemic, the statistic was, and still is for the most part, that 1 out of every 4 adults has a diagnosable mental health issue, and 1 out of every 5 children. That statistic is pretty much the same, but it has grown and exacerbated because of COVID. So you're right that mental health is not new. Mental health disorders are not new. Substance use disorders are not new, but we're sitting here today because the impact of what we've all experienced, the trauma of it, has really heightened that experience. Substance use is off the charts. Suicidality, off the charts. Depression, anxiety. That's why we're here. As far as facilities, like I said earlier, I am privileged to work for Preferred Behavioral Health Group. We have locations in 11 counties, but we're predominantly in Monmouth and Ocean, and we are trauma informed. So that means we don't want to traumatize someone when they walk through our doors. So I can say that our facilities are not scary, yes. We're nonprofit. We're nonprofit.
Private as well? You're private? A private organization, privatized, not run by the government?
Privatized, yes.
Privatized, yes.
A
Okay,
private
so
nonprofit, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And
we're
I'm
not.
looking to
We have some
potentially get involved
funding
in
that
this,
is government,
so-
but
Okay, yeah, I'm looking to potentially get involved and help. When I started my business, I wanted to help. I potentially wanted to help organizations in this aspect as one of my organizations that I helped, and I'm trying to potentially get involved in it. And from being through through things, I have been very turned off by everything that I
Sure.
see from the lack of therapists being out there.
Yes.
There's a lack of therapists. The facilities are completely atrocious. I think a lot of them they're not well taken care of. People are afraid to go into them, and that's the fact is that once you go into one, like if something were to happen to me, I don't know if I would even try. I lost so much trust in the system that it's just like, and I started my company. I try to get away from it as much as possible, and that's why people are stigmatized to go into mental health facilities.
Sure.
Absolutely, and even to see a therapist sometimes.
And that's our goal too. I mean, the YMCA has tremendous programs. We do, and Commissioner Kiley is here to shed a light on what is available in Monmouth County. Yeah. Well, thank you for your questions. Yeah.
One, you're absolutely right about, people think about mental wellness. That's probably a better way to put it. Facilities, because, we watch those old movies and, we're going to places that have people on locked wards. Because, I did psychiatric nursing. I remember walking in, going into a locked ward and then having to turn my back to lock myself in. That was terrifying. There is a place for that, but it's not for people that typically need some help and want to talk to a counselor. And that's why the organizations that these women represent are so good. What we do at the county level is we're always looking to get more money, more grants to be able to support these organizations and to change that. Because you're right, that was my perception of a mental health facility. The other thing is that COVID kind of raised mental health to the surface because we all became very concerned about how are these people and children handling being at home all the time. So one of the things that all of these organizations did in cooperation with Monmouth County is we created a hotline per se. And we had licensed practitioners in psychology volunteer their time to be on those calls. And if you call there, you can get up to 6 sessions by phone free with a licensed professional. And then from there, decide where you want to go. So it's a great resource that's out there for anyone that's just, I want to ask some questions, I want to talk. I did pull it up. Yeah. Well, I might as well give it to you anyway, right? Okay, so the Mental Health Emergency Call Psychiatric Emergency Screening Services, 732-923-6999. And we've had some tremendous success with that line. Right, right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you again for being here. As somebody who works for an organization that's in a similar space, I respect tremendously the work that you're doing. And, our residential homes serve teenage girls who have suffered unbelievable trauma and score very, very low on the ACEs exam, which you all are familiar with. And one of the things that we came across recently, we all have quotes that we lean on. I'm just going to read it because I think it's really good for the employers in the room too, right? Because these relationships and our mental health affect the success of a business and how you work with your colleague. So it says our brains are wired for connection, but trauma rewires them for protection. And that's why healthy relationships are difficult for wounded people. And so we're all wounded in some way, and it's important, I think, as an employer or an employee to know that. But my question is, what do you all think of the term mental health or behavioral health? Do you think that's the right terminology to use? I guess knowing from the generation I came from, when you heard that, it was a group over there. It was an odd group of people. They would take smaller buses to school and be in that wing of the building. It was not fair or right or appropriate, but that term yet continues. Do you think that has any impact on changing the narrative?
Russ, I love that question. And we've worked in partnership on multiple entities throughout the years. YMCA and Collier House have worked with the same population, and we service the group homes every once in a while. But recently I've sat on a couple of different panels, and some of the information that's been shared is instead of the idea of mental health versus mental illness, what about the idea of mental wellness, right? Because to Tara's point before, why can't it just be health? Why does it have to be physical health and mental health? Why can't it just be health? And where are you on that spectrum of mental wellness? You know, everybody feels depression, anxiety, fear. We're all humans. We all have the capacity on the very large spectrum to feel all of these things. And at any given point, when is it affecting your quality of life? When is it affecting how you function within the world? And when do you need a little bit more support? Much to the, you know, to what Tara said. You know, if you hurt your elbow, you're going to go to the orthopedist. But if you're struggling with depression and you've been sad for, 4 to 6 weeks, who are you talking to about that? Who are you reaching out to about that? So if we can change that dialogue and make it more about mental wellness as a whole instead of, focusing in on mental health or mental illness, that might help destigmatize it further for people to be able to access these services. And I will say that I do think one of the highlights or one of the benefits of the pandemic is that while mental health and behavioral health services have been around forever, right now it's at the forefront. Now it's a conversation. Now we're doing the work to destigmatize it further because the whole population has experienced it in a different way than they have before. So now we're normalizing it more than I think we ever have before.
I would just add first, Russell, thank you for the quote. It's perfect. And the question is as well. And it's a work in progress. And I think the buzzword for us now is integrated care. We are a certified community behavioral health center, which is through government funding. So a preferred behavioral health group, just like other organizations in New Jersey now, have federal funding to focus on integrated care and integrated health. So that's what we're calling it. So when we are meeting someone for a psychiatric evaluation, we are now asking really important questions about their health and then referring them to primary care, and also working with primary care providers that if you have a patient that's coming for an annual exam and perhaps they score high on a anxiety or depression scale, that then they're referring to us. So there's more of an awareness. So at the moment, that would be what we're calling it, integrated health, integrated care. I don't know if that will continue to evolve, but that is what we need to see more of.
I like that a lot. We talked at length about combining mental health and behavioral health together, and addiction services for that matter, because addiction services come out of something that's happening in your behavior or in your mental health. And we struggled with it because the state had some regulations about what we could and could not call the different departments. That's not the end of it, but that's why it hasn't changed yet. And we continue to work towards that, because I agree with you, mental health is like a scary thing. It's a scary thing for people to come forward and say, yep, I got it.
Thank you for that. Next question.
Hi, I know you came late, so if you just want to give your name and your business, and then I think you have a comment, right, or a question?
Hi, my name is Ray Taha. I'm a physical therapist, and we are a group of physical, occupational, and nutritionists. We do work with seniors, and we did this business after COVID when patients are not able to come out, so we went and we did all of the work in their homes. As far as the isolations for seniors, we do see it a huge and a big deal when we just work with them and have them come out of their own environment, and their mental changes 180 degrees. They are isolated, they are afraid, they cannot get out of the house, transportations, whatever is the reason. But the connection between physical and mental is a huge. If we could get them out and they start socializing, and even in the building, just to get them out downstairs to the community room, their attitude changes, and their eating habits and their mental habits and their physical habits after that, and they start just, let go and go out a lot more. So I do totally agree. I don't have a question, but I do agree of what you guys said, and we really do appreciate your work.
Thank you for that
Thank
input.
you. Don't
Thank
forget
you.
the silliness factor. It works.
Thank you for your input. Really appreciate it. Next question. Hi,
Hi,
Nikki.
thank you so much. What a wonderful panel. When I began my journey of wellness, the YMCA provided grant-funded free parenting mentors. I am a volunteer on the advisory board for PCMC. PCMC, again, another entity that just does nothing but grant-funded free programs that unfortunately aren't accessed. And of course, Monmouth County Acts. I'm a volunteer on the Board of Addiction Services, and we are addressing capacity. That is our main thing. We have just, I'm also intensive in-community therapist who deals with children from mobile response and crisis. And Monmouth County has just taken an amazing initiative to have what we call a prescriber go to mobile response calls, because often we are engaged for 8 to 12 weeks in therapy and a child has no access to psychiatric care. So each of your entities is amazing. And I love I work at CCBHC as well, the integrated care, because I think sometimes even the word your mental can have like some stigma. And I love the stigma-free initiative, which part is person first language. He's not homeless, he's a person experiencing homelessness. I didn't abuse prescription pills. If anything, they abused me. We don't use words like that. I didn't commit or try to commit suicide. I had an incomplete. So I think that that's a huge part of it. But then the other thing, which I have to put my hand up, I'm guilty of, is implicit bias. I'm a mom. When my children have issues, or even when I was first diagnosed, I sobbed. It was a very hard diagnosis. And I think that if we begin to, again, start at the top with the person first language, but make the structural things to say that this is important, the parity acts and all of the branches coming together, because that is one of my biggest, to me, a barrier. When I walk into a house for a child in crisis, or adults too, they are closed off to any psychiatric care. And I played sports in college, and my son does now too. We had multiple trainers travel with the team. If my finger was stubbed, I had 4 trainers over to get me back on the court immediately. Nobody asked how I was. Now they're doing a little better, but I think the CCHB model, CCBHC, the integrated care is so important, because we're saying it's all together. We know if you have mental illness, you're sick. If you can't meet your basic needs, you can't get to mental illness. So scaffolding it, but I can't explain the role you're all playing. And thank you so much. And thank you always for having these conversations, because the more we can normalize it, like you said, some people believe care is a traumatic experience. It's an ACE sometimes to put a child in, but what else do we do? So if we keep working together as a community, have the silly moments, the one-on-one, we can be a one trusted adult to any child, and most of all, prevention, 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 because right now, we're not, we haven't invested the time before these things happen. We have to still keep engaging in treatment, but the more we normalize these conversations, just like we do, what SAT are you using? What this, who's your psychologist? Who's your therapist? This should all part of screening every year. All of this is wonderful. So thank you so much. And
Thank you, Nikki. We have time for maybe one more question, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, we have 2 more.
Okay, great.
Hi, so I'm a senior in high school, and I'm going to be heading off to college next year. And I was just wondering if you guys had any advice for someone around my age who might be struggling with mental health, how they could contact resources in a completely different environment, and how they could get settled in if they're struggling with mental health.
Absolutely. I have an 18-year-old who's going to college also, and one of the things that we've discussed is what are the resources on campus. Every school is going to have either a school counseling department. In fact, when you toured the colleges, they probably took you past, here's where the gyms are, here's where the counseling department is, here's where, you can go to the pharmacy on campus and all of the things they have now that they did not have way back when. And so I would say if it's something that you typically struggle with or that you're concerned about, when you get to school, immediately contact them because they can be a resource for you. And even if it's just a touch point, sometimes the schools will also have a hotline, just somebody to talk to. You're in a new environment, it's a lot of change, it's a lot of adjustment. And then if you decide you need something more, they can also link you to additional resources that are closer to your school.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm a college student now, and currently in school, you hear the word depressed, anxious thrown around all the time. Classmates say, oh, I'm depressed, the semester is hectic. My question is, when do you know, like as a friend, to probe deeper, like, are they just depressed, like the paper is hectic, or I should ask more? And sometimes you don't want to seem like you are being nosy, but you also want to be there for them. So how do you go about situations like that?
So you just touched on something that's probably one of my greatest pet peeves, that as a society we use those words like, oh my God, my mom's bipolar, or oh my dad has OCD, he's a neat freak, and it's wrong. It's completely incorrect the way that we use these words, and I think that often we use the word depressed when we're just kind of feeling sad and being human. So as a friend, if you're curious, and I can't see you, I apologize, but as a friend, if someone is saying, I'm so depressed, they've already opened the door and they've shared that information with you. So play dumb and say, well, what do you mean? Or how does it feel to be depressed? And maybe ask them questions like that. Or say, I'm curious because I don't necessarily understand what it means, because it's okay to not know something. And it's a good way maybe for them to think a little deeper about how they're feeling. But that is something that we do as a society in general. And when we think about our language, and Mickey, you brought that up too, saying mental, and it's so negative, we need to be careful to not throw around a diagnosis. We don't say like, oh, I have like a spinal stenosis because your back hurts, so we shouldn't assume that we're depressed, but ask questions, and we can always just come from a place of curiosity, like, I'm wondering, what that means for you. I'm curious, like, what it feels like to dig a little bit deeper.
Thank you for that. Jeannie?
Hi, guys. So I just jotted a few things down as you guys were talking, just to kind of touch on the points that you were speaking about. First thing is availability of services. My mom was an opioid addict, and I was a teenager, and I was the only child. I had no idea where to turn for help. We wound up not being able to get her a bed to detox. So she detoxed in my little cousin's bed in his bedroom in my aunt's house, and I watched her go through detox in that environment with no medical management. And that was probably the single most traumatic thing I could sit here all day and tell you the traumatic things that I've been through, but witnessing that in that situation was probably one of the most traumatic things that I've ever been through. And if there's one thing that I can do for people in my community is make sure that they always know that resources are available and there are people to help, and there are people who, this is not a job and this is not a paycheck, this is a mission, this is a passion, and that's what it is for me. So my reason for bringing that up is because I did print this out from the Mental Health Association of Monmouth County. This is 9 pages of resources. So they are there, they are available. It's just a matter of getting this information out to the public. Like, I mean, I'll stay up for days on end sticking these in envelopes and putting postage on them and mailing them to every single person. Like, something needs to be done about this, because I'm in this industry now and it took me a little while to find this, so just making this more accessible to people, because like I said, 9 pages. You can't say there's nothing available. There's 9 pages. It's just getting it out there.
Thank you for that insight. So, good? So we're going to, yeah, we're good? Okay. So we're going to close out a fantastic, powerful session and as I like to sometimes do is ask, first of all, from LeeAnn and Tara and Sue, how do folks reach you? But also, so what's the next big thing for you, or what item or event do you want folks to know about from each of your organizations? And also, how do they reach you? Let's start with you, LeeAnn.
Okay, absolutely. So to reach us at the Y, you can always find us at ymcanj.org. And you can see all of our programs from our health and wellness all the way through to our behavioral health services. And then right now what we're working on, I actually brought it with me, so sorry for the little plug, but we partnered with the Society for the Prevention of Teen Suicide to do a behavioral health toolkit. And what this is it's resources for families who are new to the behavioral health world and don't necessarily know all the language or the right acronyms or what everybody actually does or how to access it. So it's a really great tool, and what we've done is we've used great grant funding to be able to distribute it to schools in Monmouth County, to our school partners. So that's what we're working on right now to help raise awareness.
Thank you, LeeAnn. Tara.
Okay, so I can be reached, and my organization can be reached at www.preferredbehavioral.org. We have a lot of information on our website, and I just want to say that whenever I am in an environment like this, I encourage you, go on the website. If you ever have a question, send me an email. I help people all the time. You know, we now know each other, so reach out. If you have a question, I'm always there to help, and, you know, would do anything I could to help you or a loved one. As far as events, what I want to highlight is that we really value our staff. And as a trauma-informed organization, yes, it is about the people that come to us for care, but it's also the people that work for us. So we're really excited because we're planning our first ever wellness event for our staff, where we are offering massage, Reiki, healthy food, yoga, and giving them an opportunity to leave what they're doing and come and enjoy us in a beautiful setting on the Matitakunk River on a beach. So unfortunately, I don't have a public event to share with you all, but I just want you to know that it's really matters to us to invest into our staff, because that's who's going to be greeting you at the door. So think about what that looks like if they're feeling really good in their body and their mind, and what that's going to mean for you. So thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Sue?
And thank you all for having us. In order to get in touch with me, you can always visit monmouthacts.org. You can visit Monmouth is the name of the website, and on there you'll find all kinds of resources. You'll find information to connect with me. And since I'm running for office, you know, shameless plug here, I have a website that's super easy. It's Sue Kiley at Sue Kiley. So, you know, that's another way to make it very easy for you to remember how to reach out. It's not my official, you know, county email, but it's an easy one. And let me know anything I can do to help any of you. Thank you.
So on behalf of the Holmdel Chamber of Commerce, let's have a big round of appreciation for Sue Kiley, Tara Chalakani, and LeeAnn Wagner. Thank you so much for being here today. Please share this content. There are resources and advocacy for you, your friends, and your family. Let's make a difference together. Thank you very much, and have a great week. And a shout out to Ralph Zucker, who I saw him a little earlier, and his team, Reimagining Bellworks. Come down, they're open. It's fantastic here. Look forward to seeing you down at the Metro Bourbon Holmdel Township. Thank you very much, and have a great week.